I'm Laura Bonnell, and this is the Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast coming to you from Detroit. Please subscribe and even rate and comment on our podcasts when it moves you. I learn something new with every podcast, and I'm always inspired by the people that are showcased here. We don't give medical advice. You need to connect with your doctor for that. I hope that this Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast educates you and sparks some volunteering or advocacy. The CF community needs people like you. Thanks to our sponsors, Beatrice and Vertex, for their support. So if you joined us at the Mix and Mingle, then you know what you're in for. You know that this podcast is incredible. We did it live, and it was emotional, and many different caregivers, grandparents, and parents, and dads, everybody, and people with CF, everybody had something to say, and there was a lot of inspiring things that were said, and there was crying. It was a beautiful, beautiful day of everybody sharing how they were feeling. And I also wanted you to know we did a slideshow, and you can go into show notes and see the link to that slideshow when you hear us talking about Egypt and other things. So just wanted to set that up for you before we get started into this fantastic podcast. Everyone's names are also in show notes. We did say everybody's name in the podcast, but we may not have said a last name. So if you want to get in touch with someone, or you're just curious who that person is, everything is in show notes. Enjoy. It's my absolute favorite podcast that we have ever done. Thanks everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. It's fun to do this podcast with everybody here. I want to remember also to thank Beatrice, our sponsor, because we couldn't have done this without their supports. The first thing we're going to do is just show you some of what we do here. That's obviously my family. This is Joe, just off the pandemic. He had went through a phase of facial hair, which he really, really loved. So, those are the girls, Molly and Emily. I think everybody knows Molly's 30, Emily's 27. They both have CF, and they're both doing really well. Molly lives in London. That was the first time we saw her since the pandemic happened. And Emily's in Chicago. So they're doing great. And this is one of our most exciting programs because it just exploded. The bags I brought to show you that I have here, and we started giving out these hospital bags in Michigan to parents because when when you're in an exacerbation, you're not thinking like, I need to bring my phone charger, I need to bring a coffee mug or any of that. And all of it is filled in the bags: dry hair shampoo, toothbrushes, all kinds of things, journals, pens. There's so much that's packed in that bag. And then this year, we got a grant from Beatrice and then the Boomer Esiason Foundation. And now we're going across the country handing out these bags. And the demand... Thank you. The demand from social workers has been amazing. So it's been a fantastic program. And if you can go back, Joe, that picture that you saw is the rock star, Claire, over here. And Wendi is not featured in this particular drop-off, but she was in other pictures. If you know Wendi, she's at Children's and is the nurse there extraordinaire. So this has been going great. We are getting thank you letters from parents every time they get a bag or they're posting it on social media. So it's one of the things we're most proudest about. So then we can go to the next slide. This is a program that Claire and Wendi are going to talk about on the podcast, but the mentoring program was the brainchild of these two saints and that are here with us, and something that we talked about during one of these education days. And now we have this mentoring program and would love any of you to be a part of it. A CF parent mentors another CF parent, whether you're experienced or not. Everybody has some advice. It doesn't matter if your child is newly diagnosed because everyone has advice to give. So it's non-medical advice, but it's still advice. And there's a whole program that Wendi and Claire do. And we couldn't do it without them because they're meticulous and very much needed. And their input is incredible. If you know them, you know. So thank you for that. And we want you all to get involved in that because this is our pilot year and we want it to do as well as the BAG program is doing too. So next slide. Thanks, Joe. And just to remind everybody about our financial assistance programs, one of the reasons we always post pictures and have people write notes is so that people continue to donate so we can up the program. One thing that we were requested to do this year is fund a vitamin program in addition to the money that we already budgeted for this year for financial assistance. We were asked to then support what HealthWell used to support for vitamins. So that was an easy decision because I don't want any families to go without vitamins, but it was not a hardship on us, but we didn't plan for it. And 15 grand just to throw out there just to help a quarter of the population. This isn't even helping everybody. We helped about 75 families, which MVW Nutritional says that's a lot. Be proud of that. That's so many people that you've helped. So we've run out of money for the vitamin program, but it's important to say that they need more support, and I can explain that in more detail to anyone that wants to hear. But if you can go back, Joe. In addition to the financial assistance programs, we have the lung transplant programs that anybody can apply prior to a lung transplant. Please remind people, it's such a shit show, and we can swear on the podcast, FYI. So if you need to and you want to, when you're in the midst of getting a lung transplant, you don't have time to think about a lot of things. So if you know you're going to be listed, apply for a lung transplant ahead of time. We will set the money aside. You have your transplant, boom, you get your money. So we do that all the time so that people aren't in stressful situations for that. And then the education grants, we just ended our scholarship program. We give out, I think we're giving out 25 or 30,000 this year to people who have CF, to undergraduate trade school and community college programs. So across the country. Okay, that's that. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, so the next 3 slides are Egypt, and I just came back from Egypt, and one of the things, I could talk about this for 2 days, but I promise I won't, but those are families that are just learning what cystic fibrosis is. There is a mom in the middle there to the left of me who's lost 3 children to CF before they were 8 because they don't have the medicine there. It was heartbreaking. I still haven't processed everything, and this is my second trip there. And Dr. Samia Nasser, who's at the University of Michigan, the pediatric pulmonologist, and she's native to Egypt and has brought me on this crusade once I realized, oh my gosh, you're kidding. They don't even acknowledge CF there yet, but they've come such a long way since she began her efforts. And they just got Trikafta, which is unbelievable. But they don't have access to vitamins. I brought vitamins, and the first trip, they were like, hey, welcome to Egypt, glad to see you, hold on. They had to take the liquid vitamins I had immediately and baby bird them in an infant's mouth. That's how desperate they are for those drugs. They have smart women doctors there that are extraordinary pulmonologists, but they don't know anything about CF. They're learning. Dr. Nasser has brought RTs, PTs, nurses, all of us, and I communicate with the families and talk to them because we know their fear, right? It's the same fear. We may not even speak the same language. A mom's crying. I know why she's crying. Her child was just diagnosed with CF, and we just hugged each other, and I started crying, and she started crying. It brought me back to our diagnosis day, so it's so powerful. And that's why I want to connect some of you with some of them, because they need us. They're in the phase where we were CF-wise 50 years ago. They're just now getting vitamins, just getting enzymes. They're just learned that they can use hummus. They don't have applesauce. They can use hummus for enzymes. So it was just, every time I go back, I'm just in awe of them, the doctors and the families. And you can go to the next slide, Joe. So they were incredible. And now that they have Trikafta, so some of the wealthier people in Egypt, there was one family that was going to move here. And they actually came and visited once. We had dinner with them. We brought them here, blah, blah, blah. But now that they have Trikafta, they don't have to move here. She was going to leave her husband. They were going to, and not leave him, but she was going to move here with her 2 daughters who have CF and the son, and they were going to go to school here. And now she can stay in Egypt because they got the meds. So Vertex donated the medication to Direct Relief. Direct Relief gave the medications to Egypt. Here's the challenge in Egypt, though. In Egypt, they're like, wait, is it safe? And Dr. Nasser was saying on this trip, is it safe? We had 5 years of clinical trials. It's been out for 5 years. And I stood up to say, it's safe. Oh my gosh. Like the change it's done in my kids. So there's still a lot going on. They have 400 people with the correct mutations, only 80 feel comfortable taking it yet in Egypt. Some because the doctors have poo-pooed it incorrectly, and Dr. Nasser's trying to change that, but you have this miracle drug, and so we really need to get the word out to them. But those are some of the families that I met that just, I mean, you would want to spend a week with them. They're so... What I brought them was hope. They saw pictures of my 30 and 27-year-old, and they cried. Like, I say to everyone, it's like being at a rock concert and I'm Taylor Swift, even though I'm not. But they surround me because it's hope. You know, it's just so touching. I just can't even describe everything. So this young man, he's 19. He is so exhausted from CF. He's on oxygen. He couldn't even speak. That's how... He's in bad shape, but, you know, his parents are like, they just want hope. So it was incredible to be there. I don't know if we have another slide. There might be, oh, that's Marwan. So Marwan's on TikTok, if you ever want to follow him. He's 25. His PFT before Trikafta was 7, and now it's 14, and he's doing much better. And it was incredible. We had kind of a language struggle. We were trying so hard to understand each other, and we did a TikTok together, which I'm going to post later this week. I have no idea what you said, but you know, it sounded beautiful. And then he did type it out for me. Yes. So he was just inspiring. So if you do want to go on TikTok and look for him, he's amazing, but he's taking a little break now while he is just getting used to Trikafta, but it was just incredible. So I just want us to partner with so many families need us. They need our support. They need to know that we're here and we want this for them. So that's my big long spiel about them. And I think that's the last one on that. So does anyone have any questions on any of that so far before we keep going? Yes, Mother?
I just wonder if the percentages are the same of CF in Egypt as they are in America.
Great question, Lois. Doctors, so the question is, my mom asked, are the same amount of people, do they have CF in Egypt as they do here? And they do not. But Dr. Nasser thinks that there could be 10,000 people that are underdiagnosed in Egypt. In Canada, they have 4,000, 4,100. So there is a difference because we have 40,000 in the US. In Thailand, they only have 12 diagnosed, definitely more. In India, Dr. Grace Paul, who I love, she believes they have 140,000 undiagnosed people in India. And until Dr. Nasser told me, I assumed everyone had access to medications and every country recognized cystic fibrosis, but they don't. We are, yeah. So we're working on a lot of that. There are many, many people working on health equity and equality so that everybody gets the same meds because, like I said, their life expectancy is very low currently, and it's just devastating. I've talked to so many parents who have lost so many children, even Khalid in Istanbul, he lost 3 children as well. So it's very, very sad. And then I'm going to quickly remind you about legislation. You are all in stages of very busy life, so I know that it's really hard, but it's important to do more research later, ask me later. I won't bore you with tons of it now, but the Prescription Drug Affordability Board is really important. It's not going to help us. It's not going to help people in CF. It's not going to help the rare disease community. We're never going to see any savings from it. What it does is actually harm research and development because they're saying that this prescription drug affordability board that doesn't have any CF doctors on it or rare disease doctors on the board are making decisions without the patient voice. And they're going to say, of course, that the drug is too expensive, but it's never going to get to your pocketbook ever. So it won't help us. And there's so much more to learn about the PDAB. This is just a summary to raise this in your mind and allow you to do some research. The Rare Disease Advisory Council, it's not statutory yet. It hasn't passed in Lansing yet. Many other states, I think there's 29 states, have passed it now. This gives the rare disease community a voice. I'm the vice chair of this committee. Dr. Stephen Rapundolo with the MichBio industry is the chair. It's really important because it gives us all a voice. People sitting on it are with health insurance companies, they're with pharma, they're with insurance, it's the patient voice. And that's really important because then everybody has a voice. We have 1 million people in Michigan with a rare disease, so it's very important. 340B takes a really long explanation, a lot of time. I am sure that Theresa knows about that or has heard about it, and Claire and Wendi, because it impacts hospitals. It's supposed to be to help people that are of low income, but there isn't enough transparency, and it's been on 60 Minutes and all over the news. They're building like water fountains in certain hospitals. That's money that's supposed to help low income. It's going to the wrong place. So that in a nutshell is what's happening. So just keep an eye on that or ask me anytime. And now the fun part, the whole purpose of this was to talk to all of you and to share your stories, because it's the most important thing we can do. I think first, Mom, why don't you come up, come sit right here. And it's just perspective. And then everybody that wants to talk, I really want to have on the podcast. But I think one thing I know that I originally did, I kept saying parents, but parents just aren't caregivers. It's also grandparents and aunts and uncles. So it's caregivers, like your mom, Dorothy. So this is my mom, 86 years old. She allows me to say it because she's very proud of it. And she's a sculptor, and you know, her work is by the DAA and everywhere. So tell everyone what CF means to you, how it's impacted you, and kind of how you have helped, like by donating your artwork every year for fundraisers, but how you've interacted with the girls and how it's impacted.
Yeah, okay, well.
You gotta talk loud.
Oh, okay. I don't know, I go back and forth. I mean, lately I had a conversation with Emily, and I'm mad at CF. You know, this is just this feeling, you know, like, I hate CF, but then Emily said, well, it's her reality. So yes, that's true. So it's been emotional for me. You know, I just worry. I worry a lot. Think about it a lot. I have 7 grandchildren, and I love all of them. But Laura's amazing. Joe's amazing. The girls are amazing, and they kind of give me hope. And I don't know what I do. I help as much as I can, but of course Laura does all the work, you know. But I'm as supportive as I can to all of them. And
Natalie, do you want to add anything? My mom's partner, Natalie, do you want to come to the microphone and say anything?
Yeah.
Just sitting there.
I know. No one is safe, honestly.
Yeah, I guess listening to Laura's remarks when the girls were first diagnosed, that was
Over 20 years ago.
yeah. I mean, I remember it clearly, and I don't know if I could.
Yeah, I know.
My mom and Natalie have been together for 40 years, right? Natalie, you go. They've I used to drop the girls off at the house, and they would do their treatments there, and
Emily played baby.
Oh, over and over.
Over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember being in a meeting when the girls were first diagnosed. I think it was Molly, actually. We knew nothing about this, so I really empathize with parents when they first get this, because we just stepped into this not knowing. And the physician was telling us what it was and giving us an outline. And I remember being, anxious and not knowing what the future was going to be. And they were so beautiful.
I think they said 5 years, and it's been over 20,
Well, no, he said something which I thought was inappropriate. He said in 5 years, we'll have gene therapy
Yes.
for this. And
It's been,
It's
been 30 years.
Yeah.
Molly's 30.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that, we have to wait a little bit longer for that. Yeah, and we had all kinds of questions. Anything and everything, can they have pets? Can they have,
I've been struck by Emily, who used to give talks at her elementary school. Hi, I'm Emily Bonnell. I'm gonna die. And that's what. Anyway,
She used it though. Like she was like, I'm Emily Bonnell, I have CF, and I'm gonna die. Like she was drama. It wasn't like she was looking for sympathy. She thought that was cool. But oh, thank you, Julie. So now we're rushing you off the stage now because we're gonna get through everybody. Okay. But thanks for bringing your emotion. It's very appreciated.
Okay.
And now I think you could talk to them all day. They have such great wisdom and they've done so much. But now is a good time to bring Julie on because Julie is the grief doula. And we're not going to get sad, but it's important that we can talk about everything. And I'm going to let Julie introduce herself, what she does. And Joe, make sure you're getting pictures. I know you're texting, but make sure.
Oh, she's got it. I got her on it.
All right.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to get pictures with everybody on the podcast. So introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Julie Weatherhead, and I'm a licensed professional counselor, but I also state that I am a grief doula. Grief is a very big, I'll say, combination of emotions, right? We can say that it is an emotion, but it often has, I loved when you said, I hate CF, I'm angry, right? Grief has that. Grief has bitterness. Grief has anger. Grief has sadness, frustration. It's so many things, and it can show up in so many different ways. And I was so honored to meet you and be asked to come here today because I have a grief group that I run. It's a drop-in grief group. And I make it drop-in because grief is also kind of scary to be with. It's hard to be with. That's why I call myself a grief doula, because I really want to help people deliver their grief and let it resurface and educate them about it and let them be held with it. We have to hold each other through the grief. So I have a drop-in grief group where anybody can come. I say, come late, leave early. We just are happy that you're here. We have fresh flowers there, and we just give people a chance. It's an open grief group for any type of grief, anything that you're going through. Doesn't have to be the death of a person, because we grieve all different things. Change, loss, diagnoses, and it's important to let it out. Chinese medicine, they say that grief lives in the lungs. They connect emotions with organs. And sometimes you might feel that, right? Even when I listen to people's stories, sometimes I have to remind myself to breathe. And the ironic, notion of even the breath, right? And what you're dealing with. It's a lot. And everybody deserves support. And what does that support look like? I have people come to the drop-in grief group and they're like, I don't know if this is gonna help me. I don't know if this is gonna make me more mad and pissed off. But usually at the end, they do feel a little bit more comforted just because they know they're not alone. And you're listening and you know in this really big, overwhelming emotion, you're not alone in it. And it can feel so isolating because your grief is unique. One thing I want to mention too about CF and what you guys are going through as I learn about it, right? I'm not you and I don't have your experience, but I do know there's something that we call anticipatory grief. Sometimes we're anticipating the grief that might be coming, or we're looking so far into the future and having that worry and that anxiousness, right? So it's really important to recognize that. It does have a name. It is a thing. I was caregiving for my grandparents during COVID. I was telling somebody earlier, whew, and sometimes I would sit in the driveway and I'd have a little cry before I went in. That was my anticipatory grief, knowing that this is tough, and it's grief and death and dying, change and loss. It is something that we all are going to go through in life. So it's this thing that's going to happen at one point. So thinking about, how do I hold this for myself? How do I support myself? How do I sit with it? How do I soothe myself and take care of myself? How do I communicate that I might be grieving, especially when I have kids that I have to take care of? Who's on my grief squad? Who's on my support squad, which I'm sure you all have figured out in your life, but
and I think we can probably all relate, like, who is just acting like everything's normal? Cambria, yeah, all the CF parents and people here, everyone. And I think that was kind of the mistake I made. I think you talked right when you walked in here today about pushing your grief down. Yeah. For me, it was like, I'm fine, everything is fine. Yeah. Everything is fine. So I got one kid at U of M and I have to go to an NHS, whatever, meeting for someone else, or everything is great. I don't know, I just keep gaining weight like every day, but everything is fine. Like, and I finally lost all my weight when I had the time, in these last 3 years. But for me, my drug of choice was food, not alcohol. But I think we can all relate to, and don't people expect us to be fine all the time? When someone asks, how are you doing? Do they really want to know? And I love people, of course, but at the same time, everybody's busy, so I'm not sure they have the time. So you have to, like with CF moms, we know. We're just like, what's up? How come I haven't heard from you? Something must be going on. Mm-hmm. But it is kind of hard where you find your people. Yeah.
And you have to make the time, just like you're saying, because for so many reasons, right, in our society and in different societies, I've been with people who say grief is like a cultural wound that we have. We don't really know how to be with it. We don't really, that's right. Yeah, we don't really know how to spend time with it. We know how to make a casserole for it. How many casseroles can you fit? Okay. So I think it's really a reckoning of time. And unfortunately, even with COVID and all the deaths that happened there, and you see grief in the media more, people talking about it, right, in movies or in shows. So it's an interesting thing to watch culturally, how we're...
There's still this, shame about, this time period. Right?
Yes. Woo. Yeah.
I hate the word still.
Speak on that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And that's what...
Yeah. She's talking, and to repeat what she said from our awesome podcast, man, she was bringing up the aspect of time and the expectations that people have. Your work leave. How many days do you get off work when somebody dies? What? I'm supposed to be fine now and just come back and, do whatever. And also our expectations, too, that the world stops if we don't do this thing. No. And that's the village work that I think we really all are continuing to understand and realize. And something that you all have realized probably a lot earlier in your journey, that no, we need each other to do life, to get through this.
You stay where you are, Julie. And Sharon, you come up to the microphone next to Julie for a minute. And Olga, welcome. Hi, how are you? Oh, sister. Georgia, nice to see you. Good to meet you. Sharon has been a friend for a long time, and her son, Valentino, has cystic fibrosis, and he's going to be 20 soon, in about 2 weeks. What are your feelings on grief and getting through? And then I also wanted to talk about one other thing with you.
So my feelings on grief, seems like it's never ending. It just keeps lurking in the shadow like a dark cloud. The weather, it comes and it goes.
Yeah.
And you have to just push through it. I mean, there's for a lack of better, I'm more of a scientific mind. And you have to pick up the pieces, dust yourself off, and keep going, because our world is just that. It has to keep going.
One other thing I wanted to point out, because we all individually do so much for the CF community, but I want Sharon to explain what she changed for all of us in regard to a nebulizer.
Okay, so the prelude of this is I encourage each and every one of you to advocate, to speak up, to make change. And when my son it was Halloween. Oh, no, wait. Yes, Halloween. He was doing his nebulizer, the Pari-LC Plus, and that little cap that goes onto the stem fell off onto the floor repeatedly. And it just was not right. And I went up the chain of command calling people to find out, what can we do to change this? What can we do? And people kept telling me, well, this is the way it is. I don't know. Well, through the chain of people, I reached somebody who, as we were trick-or-treating, the president of Pari USA called me. And I explained the situation to him, and I gave him kudos for reaching out, especially in the evening. And he heard me. He told me that they had just changed the dye lot, the making of that piece, and in Germany. And by the time it came here, he assumed that it had changed structure a little, enough to not be secure. So they took and they revamped that. And he was very surprised that he hadn't heard from anybody, because this was a nebulizer because I get a couple extra that I have had on the side. And by the time I got to use it, it was, probably maybe even a year. He goes, yeah, we changed that a while ago. I've not heard from anybody. So fast forward, my voice made change. So I encourage you, if there's anything you can do to improve our family, please help me and I'll help you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because if one of us is going through it, usually other people are as well. So that was the point. Thank you. Anything else you wanted to add, or you're good?
I do. I want to add that, Laura, I want to thank you here in front of everybody and recording, for being an amazing advocate, an amazing friend. You are one of the most selfless people that I know, and I am so blessed to have you in my life, pushing me forward every step of the way. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, yeah. Like everyone knows, my foundation, this is my therapy, because I get to be with all of you, and you're all amazing. So thank you, though. That's so sweet. Sweet of you. Love you.
I love you too.
Thank you.
You're creating the village, and
Yes.
we need the village.
Yes.
Oh, we sure do.
And I love all of you too.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here. Bring your friends next year, your family, more people, because we have so much to celebrate together and to learn from one another.
Yeah, it is wonderful. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
Great. And Cambria, why don't you come up next? We're going to keep Julie for this one, and then I'm going to have next up are Wendi and Claire. But Cambria, so you have a 3-year-old, so you're pretty new at this
Yes.
still. How are you feeling? Are you feeling like you're getting enough information and you have a great team? I mean, I know you do because some of your team is here, but...
So medically, we do have a fantastic team. I'm so thankful for Dr. Ryan Thomas up at MSU. He is doing things that no pulmonologist should have to face right now. And we are very grateful for the sacrifices he and his family is making for the care of his patients. When it comes to, raising kids, Addie's my youngest. I have 3 from a previous relationship. And I'm always just a person that looks at where each kid is uniquely, individually, and I just read and learn and find the support squad. Mm-hmm. And it's been a really hard journey, but I am so thankful that she's my 3-year-old and not my 11-year-old that is facing this diagnosis. Even just in that, 8-year difference, there have been so many advances in care for CF, and that's to you, Laura, and everybody else that's been facing this journey for much longer than I am. And I feel so honored and humbled that we get to reap the rewards of everybody that's come before us, all of their hard work. So it's definitely still hard.
Did you know you were a carrier? How did you find out through newborn screening, or how did your journey start?
Okay, so my journey is very, very unique. I am in a queer relationship. My spouse is transgender, female to male. He carried our daughter, Addie, and we had a friend who was a donor for us. No family history on either side, no, complete surprise. So my spouse found out at the 12-week genetics testing that he was a carrier. At the 20-week ultrasound, we saw echogenic bowel, and our OB said, can you get the donor in here to do genetic screening? And we're like, okay. We asked him. There was nothing in our donor agreement that required him in any of that to participate. And he's like, yeah, tell me where and when. So he found out he was a carrier. The echogenic bowel still presented throughout pregnancy. Addie was born at 39 weeks, intubated immediately due to the compression of the bowel blockage. 24 hours old, her kidneys started shutting down from the pressure of that bowel blockage, and they rushed her into surgery and told us to say goodbye. We hadn't gotten to hold her at all at that point, and it was terrifying. It is a very unique situation to be in a queer relationship as the female who's already had children. And my spouse is going through first-time childbirth, and I'm the support person, but yet I'm also mom. And I had to support my spouse because he's the one who just went through the physical trauma. So, talk about grief. Yeah. That's a whole different thing to do and process and allow yourself to take that time. It gave me a whole different perspective on what, in a heterosexual or hetero relationship, what the men go through. And it's hard. I'm still processing it 3.5 years later. And, that delayed processing often hits me out of nowhere. I'll be taking one of my other kids down to U of M for an appointment, and holy crap, the PTSD panic attack hits me out of nowhere. So it's been a journey.
It's so much. There is so much. Like, we all have stories, right? When we start talking about this, it makes you think of, oh my gosh, I remember when I went through this. And I remember when Kim Bowman, some of you probably know Kim Bowman, she had 2 boys with CF, and Blake died at 14 from complications of CF, and Brett is living now and had a transplant. But when we would see each other in the hospital, we would like, where are you? And we'd go to the, where the plants are and sit by the benches and just cry, or just say like, this happened, that happened. It really, puts you, so yes. So when you think of, yes, you're throwing me into all these thoughts, like, I'm just saying we all just go right back to where we were. We have so many stories. So thank you for sharing that and for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And if Theresa wants to come up and talk, that would be great. Thank you, Cambria. But if you want to, Theresa is at the MSU clinic, which you can tell us about, is changing. But, and I was thinking too, sometimes now when I speak, I say, when my daughters were diagnosed, we had vest machines you plugged into the wall, and there were no CF modulators. And look where we are 30 years later. Now you can wear vests with battery packs, and you can go anywhere, and there's 4 CF modulators, I think. Maybe there's 5. No, there's 5 now, because a lift truck. Yeah. So, Theresa Dagget, why don't you just give us briefly about you, and then I'll ask you some questions.
So my journey with CF began 33 years ago. I've been a respiratory therapist for 33 years, 25 with hospital bedside care, and then 8 years at a CF center. The last, I think 4 as the CF coordinator. I'm also the pulmonary function technologist there. So that's my 100% role. I think my amazement is the advancement in care from when I started, let's look at my age, but at 21 years old, doing patients, whether it's peds or adults with CF, in rooms, two in a room, which would never happen anymore. Hand percussion treatment, you'd be in one room for probably an hour, to then, oh, we have a chest vest. And then, oh, we have this. And now to modulators. The children and patients I took care of, all gone, and that was as heartbreaking. I remember coming back from my honeymoon, none of my coworkers or friends told me one of the patients that I took care of was very close with had passed away. And I sat, makes me think about it, and cried in the middle of my living room. And to this day, now seeing that, I think at our center, our oldest are 58 and 62-year-old siblings. And it's just puts you in awe of the advancements in anyone from teenagers to young to old to have hope now. Because I remember being like, why do I need to go to college? Why do I this? I'm not going to make it. There was nothing. And now it's amazing and crazy. And I think one of the best parts is learning from you all too, that in different modalities of care, from being an RT or a coordinator, I'm still learning, because that was kind of put in my lap, which I love it, but I have so much to learn and experience, like Claire and Wendi, when you reach out and go, hey, I have no idea. And so now I look at the foundation, going to conference just blows my mind. I've been probably 4 years now, and I love it. I'm not going to be able to probably go this year. Our center, like Laura was saying, is being closed, not by Dr. Thomas's want or will or anything like that, but the healthcare system we work for is closing our peds pulmonary, which in turn closes our CF center. But because he is amazing, like Cambria said, him and our nurse practitioner are advocates and really push to keep pulmonary care, but also CF care in Lansing. So they have signed on with Helen DeVos in Corwell Health. And there's a outreach pediatric care center in the new Tom Izzo building. So he was strongly wanting and willing to do that, which is, I think, amazing. And so there'll be a little bit of transition and a little bit of trials and tribulations, but we are excited for that.
And it is very exciting. And he's on our advisory board on the Bonnell Foundation, and you are, and everybody helping us. So it is really important to families, I know, as Cambria was talking about it, and all your work is appreciated. And I think also something that you've reminded us about, that Julie can also talk about, is everyone's going through some sort of grief. The doctors, when we were in Egypt, Dr. Nasser said, I don't cry, but I feel like crying. She's so stoic and amazing. But when these parents were talking, because they got to ask some questions, and in Egypt, once you hit 14, there are no CF doctors for you. That's it. There's no CF care after 14. They just they can't set up centers yet. They're not trained. So parents after parent was just talking about that. What do I do? They're so scared. But doctors are feeling that pain, and RTs and PTs. Everybody is going through it. It's not like we're just coming into the hospitals and then we leave and none of the clinicians and the people that we talk to are not impacted. Everyone's impacted. And that's why we feel like you're all family, because we're all going through this together. And I remember when I was at work, when I was at WWJ, and before I was going out to a news story, I looked on Facebook, and Kim announced the death of Blake on Facebook. And I was sobbing so much, I couldn't even get it together. And everybody's like, what? Thought someone in my family died. I couldn't even talk.
Who was somebody in your family?
Yes.
Yep.
So it's just that, we just have to remember we're so connected, and everything is so important.
I'm really happy to hear that both of you cried, right? Because crying releases stress hormones, right? Different tears have different DNA. When you cry, you're releasing and letting some of that grief flow through you. Like, grief isn't something that just goes away and you can't, pretend like it's not going to be there. But like all emotions, we have to recognize them and welcome them and greet them, and then let them leave eventually. And I think that's the fear sometimes with crying, is I'm not going to be able to stop. Well, why can't you stop? Because I don't ever do it, and I push it down and I push it down. Or, it's so fresh that maybe it does just keep going. And then it's hard to communicate that care, or you feel ostracized or shameful about it, about being in this deep, intense emotion that, again, makes people uncomfortable, quote unquote. It's really tough. So I'm really happy that, again, it's like part of finding your squad is, and your people, is finding those people who are okay to sit in the suck, as I like to call it, with you. You know, your presence is a present, your presence is a gift. It's like one of the biggest things that I can tell people about grief support is just being there, you know, and just hanging out and, you know, being there and asking, because sometimes people don't know what they need when they're grieving. That's true. Yeah, and so it's hard to communicate. You know, when someone's like, let me know if you need anything. I'm here. It's like, oh, goodness. We need to figure out, you know, how to give concrete asks or to circle back around. And thank you for, again, pointing out the trauma and grief that healthcare providers go through that also is shoved down, right? Because it's part of their quote unquote job. Well, just like us, you know, they have to also find ways to have rituals of care that are as healthy as they can be to, you know, wash off these emotions and try to, you know, start fresh and be able to go to sleep if you can, or write in your journal about what happened today. It's not something you can change, but it's, again, something we have to practice releasing and letting flow through us.
And I think, too, it's changing now. It's so different, but you're not supposed to bring anything to work, right? You're not supposed to let anybody know anything's going on. That's separate. You go to work, you do your job, you go home. Everything is separate. And thankfully, that gets to mix a little more now. But I also say to Dr. Nasser and to all of you who are here from clinics is, do you have your own families? And I say that all the time because you all give so much time. I used to say to Dr. Nasser, do you have children? Which she does. She has boys and daughter-in-laws and grandkids, but you're all so involved in our world that it almost seems like you're just so committed to all of us that, I mean, you're here today, right, on a weekend. It's crazy. So you're very much appreciated. And to everybody listening, you know that they're all appreciated because we can't do it without you. You know,
a very special community.
So, yes, it is.
Touches near and dear to a lot.
It is. And now trying to make sure to get through everybody, I'm going to have Dorothy, if you're willing, come.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm just curious about Egypt, whether they're in denial about CF or all other diseases.
So the question is, are people in denial about CF in Egypt? And I think part of the problem is that, like in the United States, it was incorrectly thought of as a Caucasian disease, a white disease, and it is not. So people of color are underdiagnosed, and that's the issue. So Dr. Nasser had to keep saying, I promise you, there are people here that have CF, and the Minister of Health kept saying, or the Ministry of Health kept saying, no, nobody here has CF. And every other country thought the same thing. So once she finally got them to test, she's like, right off the bat, it was like 1,000 people tested for CF. She knew the symptoms, she knew the signs, and then they did the testing to confirm it. So it's just kind of that, again, it's because the process medically is so different and the testing is different. So it's just getting everybody up to speed. And I'd say it's pretty out there now. They just have to get that information. So, Dorothy, thanks for joining us.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, and Dorothy is a really good friend to the Bonnell Foundation, like everyone is, and very supportive. And you have a stepson who has CF. Mm-hmm. And just tell us from your perspective how you're doing and maybe what your biggest challenge is, because you have different challenges than we had.
Sure. Well, I think right now, because he's like in the teenage years, because I think CF people feel isolated as it is, but then to be in those teenage years and he's smaller and he's got red hair and, he's different, but he wants to be not different, right? So, that's the today's struggle, because.
And hold on one second, Dorothy, because John's not even editing this out because I like this in it. Julie's leaving. We want to thank her for being here.
Yes, thank you very much.
And she's going to leave her information here for anybody that wants it. And thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I have to go.
That's
Oh, that's
okay.
okay.
We knew that ahead of time, and I appreciate it. So thank you. All right, Dorothy, go ahead and continue.
So one of the things, I got involved because I like to volunteer, right? And I was learning about cystic fibrosis at the beginning, right? And for years, actually, I have been in the organ donation world, right? And I didn't realize how the CF community and organ donation are really related, right? Until I met my friend Kyle, okay, who, unfortunately he passed a few years ago. But Kyle came to speak at an organ donation event. And I also found out that he had CF, and I thought, oh, great. Let me go talk to him because, I wanted to learn all kinds of information to help my guy, because I didn't have all that information and I wanted to get it for him and be able to, share with him. And that's kind of how I also kind of got connected with Jillian. Just absorbing information, asking questions because, I wasn't there at the beginning. This was not really part of my world. And so I had a lot of questions. And, it's my interactions with Jillian, with Kyle, with Emily, all these connections. I'm just trying to get information to share.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you. And thank you.
Oh, no, thank you.
And thank you. And I'm glad your mom came.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's my kid.
Yeah, right? And so Jillian if you will come join us, and then Jamie will be next, and then Wendi and Claire. And then anyone else. What's your dad's name?
Bill.
Bill, why don't you join us too? Cool. So Jillian has CF, and she is going to briefly tell us, because we're trying to get through everybody and I want to feed you all lunch, but briefly tell us about your, CF journey.
Sure. So I was diagnosed with CF shortly after birth, I believe. I had the ileum, whatever that is, where your bowels get backed up. So my parents, they knew that I had CF. As a child, I really tried to live a normal life. My parents, I was actually trying to find photos of me taking the treatment and in the hospital, but they didn't really take any. And I guess that really foreshadows my life in that I grew up pretty normal. I played sports in high school. I was hospitalized twice a year a lot. So I was in the hospital from, 15 to 17, a lot more than normal. I tried to live a normal life as I could with my friends, but I always had the responsibilities of CF. I had to go home at night, take my treatments, make sure I got a good amount of sleep, take my treatments before I would go to school in the morning. So I learned a lot of discipline. And my parents, I attribute that to them. Because as we get older, it can be, something that you don't want to do. It's something that I've been doing my whole life. I'm 33 now. When I reached lung failure at 29, before COVID, I had a really bad exasperation that led to lung failure. It came out of nowhere. It was a crazy surprise. It was during 2020 when COVID happened, so it was one of the worst times. My twin brother, I have a twin brother, he doesn't have CF. He had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma when he was 18. So it was hard to see him go through that. He did live through that, but he eventually ended up passing in 2020. So right before I got my lung transplant, he passed. So it was really hard to deal with having this new life and not having my brother here to celebrate, because he was one of my biggest advocates. He loved me very much. But it was also hard to see my parents struggle with me, taking care of me and not being able to take care of him too. So that's a whole nother story there. But I received the gift of life in 2020. I am very fortunate for that because it was hard growing up with CF. My parents never told me that I had like an expiration date or I was going to die early or any of that. I've been a very hopeful person, and I just always thought that when my time comes, my time's going to come, and, I was okay with that. So when I had to get a transplant, I had to go through a lot of emotions, processing all of this, I hadn't reached a lot of things that I wanted to, like a career, I wanted to get married, things of that sort. So I never really grew up, envisioning that, having a family until Trikafta came. Trikafta, really people are able to have children now and grow and go to work and do all of these things, which is awesome. I'm not taking Trikafta anymore because I had a lung transplant, so they see that that's not necessary. But, transplant has really given me 5 years out this year, and it's really given me an opportunity. I graduated college with a degree in health administration. I got married last year, and now we're finally able to talk about family planning. So I'm just really excited about all of the things that are in my future. It's very, it's hopeful. And so I hope to share my story with others so that people who have CF can know and understand that you don't have to be depressed about your future. You don't have to have this burden all over you of CF. You can not be defined by CF. You can let your passions define you instead of, because I feel like that happens a lot with people who have CF. They let the burdens of CF kind of hold them back from being who they really are. And so I've tried really hard to not let that happen to me.
And I'm so glad we got to meet in person.
Yes.
And I'm thinking about your dad sitting there listening to all
this. Still here. Talking about going through grief and stuff.
Right. It's just
we always tried to have we had 2 older daughters and we wanted a boy, so we went away and had a nice vacation or whatever, and we had twins, tried for that boy, and I had twins, so I had 3 girls and a boy, and like Jill said, she was real sick. Failure to thrive was the first thing. And then they found the meconium blockage, and then they told us, she has CF, and she probably life expectancy of like 7 years. So it kind of, put a dark shadow over us. Jill was always smiling. She had snot coming over her face, down her ears. She'd poop and it'd go up into her armpits, and you'd look at her in that crib and she just had the biggest smile, and you're like, come and get me, come and take care of me. So
I love the humor in everything.
We that's what really got us through. We've been through so much, and it's hard to really dwell in on one thing, but I think the biggest thing that I can say is that she was always the inspiration. She, she never gave up, and she always pushed us, and she set an example. I mean, I would have to give her compressions, chest compressions, 3 times a day for like 40 minutes. So I had a lot of hours, and by the time she was 10, they finally came out with a pneumatic vest. So that opened up our life a lot. We've always been close, I remember she asked me one time when she was like 4 years old, she asked me if she was going to die, and I told her, I didn't know. And I thought that was terrible that a 4-year-old would have to ask their parents that, and I don't know, we've been through a lot. I love her. She's an inspiration to our whole family.
You're an inspiration, and I've told my girls, and you all know it, but I think caregiving can sometimes be harder, right, than being the patient, because you have to watch it. You have to see it. Not that we have to compare what's harder. They're equally hard. Like, it's probably not fair to compare, but I'm just saying being a caregiver, it's so hard as a parent. You're worried all the time and you can't take the pain away from your child. So that's very hard. And I just want to thank you for bringing your emotion, and especially as a man, as a dad. Every time we know Caesar, who's on our board, and Joe knows, and every time there's a man who cries or is saying the truth about their CF journey, grief as being a caregiver, I'm like, thank you, because not enough are men sharing their grief. We know that they're not sharing it enough. So it is really important. And I thank you for doing that. And I'm sorry they're so short, but I just want to get everybody on. But I also want to say
for
that
everything you do, Laura.
Oh, you're welcome. The only reason I'm not crying is because I'm in charge right now. So that's the only shield I have. It's like when it's like having a shield. So that's why. But I also wanted to say that Jillian has Jillian's Jaywalkers, and we will probably collaborate in the future. You're inspiring, and I've talked to her about some of the areas that no other foundations are meeting, and that's like rent and utilities and some nutritional aspects of CF. So we're talking, and I want to support her, and that's what this community does. So I just wanted to mention that, and I'm glad you're here. Thank you both for sharing just a little bit.
Thank you. I look forward to speaking with you all and meeting more of you.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so you're not a wimp. No. Yeah, this is strength. Crying is strength, and sharing your emotions, it's strength. That's a superhero. That is not someone who's weak. Also, I neglected to introduce John Gay, who is here. He edits all our podcasts. Jag in Detroit is the name of his company, but he's incredible. And I'm always like, John, can you jump on? Can you do this? John. So, he's always there. So I'm sorry that I didn't introduce him till now, but he's fantastic. So thank you. And then Jamie Rudnicki, did I pronounce your last name right? Yes. Jamie, like everyone else, but Jamie is always like there for me, and I appreciate it. And we met in person sort of after Louisa's diagnosis, right?
Yeah. So I have two kids. I have Theo, who's 8, who does not have CF, and Louisa, who's 6, who does. She was diagnosed a little bit later than usual at 18 months. So similar to your story, we had an echogenic bowel at 20 weeks. We didn't do any of the early prenatal screening with our son or for her. So we did carrier testing. I came back as a carrier. My husband came back negative. So they tracked the bowel. Everything seemed fine at birth, no blockages. But then her newborn screen came back with the elevated levels. So we took her to Children's and had her tested, and her sweat test was negative. So fast forward, we kind of put it out of our minds. We had 2 under 2, so we were just kind of in it. She's a different baby than he was. Explosive diapers up the back. All of these things now that we should have realized at the time. But then when she was like 9-10 months, she started having significant digestive symptoms, weight loss, failure to thrive. The pediatrician sent us to the GI. The GI said pancreatic enzyme insufficiency. So our pediatrician was like, back to Children's. Like, this has to be CF. You have to go back to Children's. And sure enough, at 18 months, she was diagnosed. Height of COVID, it was July 2020. But she, it's hard to think about it. She's spirited, she's feisty, and you always say, like, out of our 2 kids, if one has to have it, it's her, because she can take it. She's super tough. And, Wendi, when she was diagnosed, was like, stay off the internet. What you read is not the truth. Like, save for college, do the future planning. I think you said, like, she's born at the right time to have CF, and she's thriving. She's an incredible kid. Plays soccer, does gymnastics, everything normal. So, grateful for all the stories. It's a really great community to be a part of, even though you don't want to be a part of it.
I know, it really is. And thanks for sharing your story. And I know when we originally talked, like we were talking about, both my kids have CF. To me, that seems easier. You have one with,
Right.
one without, and that could be easier, harder. I don't know, but every scenario has its challenge.
Yeah,
right?
like when you go to hand enzymes to the wrong kid. He's like, I don't need these.
And how does he do? Does he learn? Has he learned a lot about it?
I mean, he's like,
Theo.
he's our overthinker. So he's the one that kind of asks the bigger questions. Louisa's just kind of like in the motions of like, I have to do my vest, I have to take my meds, I have to do this. But he'll, they're siblings. They're 20 months apart. They like beat the crap out of each other. But he'll say things like, oh, like, did she take her enzymes yet? Or did she do her vest yet this morning? Like, does she, like, that looks like it has germs on it. She shouldn't do that, or things like that. So he keeps an eye on her. But yeah, I think you're just kind of like in the motions. And I think, I'll kind of leave it at this. But when she was diagnosed, my husband's a type 1 diabetic. So I think his perspective on it was like, all right, this really sucks, but it's just another thing we have to deal with. And like, I've dealt with a disease since I was 9. And so now 2 out of the 4 of us just have to do this. And so I think his perspective on kind of that, it's just something you have to live with, and don't let it, just kind of live your life with it. Don't focus your life around it.
And how are you feeling? Not to make you cry, but how are you feeling about the future?
I feel great. I mean, she's now been on Trikafta now for 2 years. Like I said, she's thriving. She's not sick often. Knock on wood, we've never had a hospitalization. We made it through winter with like 1 cold. So to me, like, we do all the stuff every day for her, but to me, like, I don't see her any differently than Theo. So, I'm excited about the future. I think she's going to do big things.
Too. Yes, we talked about that. Louisa's going to be a doctor or something. Yeah. So thank you for sharing your family story. I really appreciate it and love you. Love you all. But thank you. And then when you leave, don't forget to take food. And she has a soccer game, I think, or something with the kids. But Wendi and Claire, unless there is did I miss anyone else to bring onto the podcast? Wendi and Claire, join us now. Nurse, social worker, Children's Hospital. Besties, fabulous humans like everyone. I mean, I just could go on and on about all of you, but really smart gals here, just have to say. I don't want to make them uncomfortable, but I mean, they're so smart. They're like incredible. So each of you introduce yourselves and then we'll just chat a little bit.
I'm Wendi. I'm the cystic fibrosis nurse and coordinator at Children's Hospital, Michigan. I've been working in CF since I was like a wee baby nurse, even before I got my license. Like, I did my clinical rotations in nursing school at Children's on the CF floor. And some of my first patients that I took care of were like lifelong friends for me. So I didn't really get into the CF community until I got into the clinic, which was about 10 years ago. So I just want to say to all you parents out there, you're the team. Like, you keep us going. You give me inspiration to keep fighting with insurance companies, to keep fighting with pharmacies, to have Claire find resources for nebulizers, for all kinds of crazy stuff. So keep up the good work. Your kids deserve it. Your family members deserve it. And you guys are their heroes, regardless of what you think. We had a speaker at our Family Edge night, and that was how she started off, was like, you guys are my hero. Mm-hmm. And you all are. You're heroes.
Mm-hmm. Yay, parents. Thank you, Linda. Claire.
Oh, yeah, it's me. I'm Claire. I'm the social worker at the same hospital as Wendi, Children's Hospital. I came to CF kind of atypically. I started at a children's hospital in Chicago working as a music therapist, and I kind of settled on the palliative care unit. And I really didn't like sharing my patients. So then I went back to school and studied social work, and then became the social worker for the hospice unit at a hospital in Chicago, and saw all of the CF patients and the transplant patients. And then COVID hit, and I was like, this seems like a good time to move my family. And I found the CF Center at Children's, and I've been there almost 5 years.
Yeah. So what are you both most excited about in the future for CF? And then second thing, if you have any advice or thoughts.
Ooh, like I told you, this is a great time to have CF, and never that it's ever a good time to have CF, but I've seen so many things in like 25 years. I remember when we got our first plug-in vest on the unit. That was like, I was still a baby nurse. And
I was a baby mom.
That was pretty exciting. Like, I was only about 6 months in. So, so that was pretty exciting. And we were all just like, wow, that's so cool. We're going to have more time for our RTs. Yeah, and now, flash forward to now, I'm like looking forward to times when these kind of meetings, our CF patients can come, and we don't have to worry about the infection control. You know, with Trikafta and modulators and things like that, the amount of bacterial infections that we see are way down, and the colonizations of weird bacteria are way down. And then moving forward, we're going to have, they're already doing all these studies on gene therapies and editing things and stuff like that. It's super exciting to just be a part of, and to see what the future holds for all of our patients. And yeah. I mean, I was 5 years in, and 5 years prior to me starting, Harper Hospital had opened their first adult center. There wasn't an adult center, but the need now is more in the adult world than it is in the peds world, which is like super exciting for everybody to know that like we have more patients in the adult world than we have in peds. It's so exciting to see.
It is. It's fantastic. And my Emily has said that now they're talking to them about transplantation and having babies when you're a woman. And I'm sure they're, because I only have girls, but I'm sure they're also explaining to the men about in vitro because they don't have the vas deferens. But they didn't used to. And Emily felt like, and Molly too, but she's in London. They're doing it differently there. But Emily thought, oh my gosh, I don't have to worry and fear about things that I don't know because she doesn't listen to me the same way that she will listen to someone in clinic. And, I get that. I try to tell her everything and she'll be, yep, I've heard enough. Not a CF day for me today, but so it's good to remember they always don't want to hear everything. But anyways, it's a really good point because it's so important, the knowledge they're now getting from the CF adult clinic. Claire.
Oh, it's me again. I'm a social worker, not a public speaker. Sorry, guys. Okay, exciting. What am I excited about? Well, we've talked a lot about grief and like the CF community, but it's a really exciting time to foster connection now. With Trikafta and even those who aren't eligible for Trikafta and other modulators, because there's still approximately 10% that aren't able to be part of this bubble. Now organizations like the Bonnell Foundation and CFRI and Rock CF,
And Emily's Entourage.
Yes, and Emily's Entourage and so many others. Now we get to prioritize connection, not only for parents, but for patients. To Wendy's point, it's so exciting to have CF right now. And as care teams, fostering resiliency and planning for the future and, reminding people that like your life isn't on hold. Like our patients are out there like living their best lives. Like I had a conversation about someone like, how much wrestling and weightlifting is too much wrestling and weightlifting. And it wasn't because CF was getting in the way. It was because they were failing 3 of their classes because they feel so good now that they're in the gym. So connection, we can foster connection now.
Great answer. Great information too. And I think like my dream is, and I wonder what y'all think about this, but my dream is next year, and I was talking with Jillian about this, I want to have Boomer Foundation here, Rock CF, CFRI, all of them. And then parents can see what all these different foundations do. Like we, as other foundations, always say, hey, you know what, I can't help you, but CFRI can, or Emily at Rock CF will say, hey, we don't do that, but the Bonnell Foundation does. And we're such good friends. There's zero competition. We're all just like, if we can't help you, someone else can. So the dream is to be back here next year with all representatives from all of these organizations, and that would be really amazing. But any suggestions, I definitely want to hear from you. Is there anyone that didn't speak or that wants to say anything else? Joe, do you want to say anything? Joe Bonnell doesn't want to say anything. And thank you. I want to remember also to thank Beatrice, our sponsor, because we couldn't have done this without their support. So thanks to them and thanks to their team, who is also family to us. We're very close. I'm very close with Kelly Jo and with Jeff and Greg and the whole team. So thanks to everybody for coming. It is time to eat now, but I appreciate everybody coming because I know it's busy and crazy, and I was just glad like it wasn't super nice out. I was glad it's kind of cold because then people still come. So thanks everybody, and I definitely want feedback, but I love you all. Like, you're really important to all of our sanity and mental health and everything. So thank you so much. The original music in this podcast is performed by Kevin Allen.
It's not complicated.
Who happens to have cystic fibrosis.
We all got our worries and fears. I know it's got you frustrating, but loving you is so alright.
This has been the Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast. For more information and to learn more about the Bonnell Foundation, visit our website at thebonnellfoundation.org. That's the BONNELL Foundation.org. This podcast was sponsored by Vertex Pharmaceutical, The Science of Possibility, and Beatrice. It was produced by Jag and Detroit Podcasts. Follow our show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now.